once again, coming back after the break, and I know that you are interested in the VIFC. So please scan the QR code, share with us your questions. We'll try to incorporate as many questions from your side into the conversation that we are about to have. And obviously, do you have any idea which question we should raise to begin this panel discussion right now? I think that is obvious because Dr. Biederman just shared his presentation for 10 minutes, and we invite you to join in order to share with us your points, whether you agree, disagree with him. So it's obvious. What do you think about some of the opinions and ideas and the experience that he shared with us on the stage?
Thank you, Minh Ngang. I think what Dr. Biederman shared resonate a lot with me. I think first of all is the long-term journey, right? And he described as a marathon. I think at least it should be a triathlon because it's going to be a lot longer and a lot more different challenges and coming on shape and forms. So it requires a lot of resilience and persistency and agility, right? As you said. So that's the first thing. The second thing that resonates very well with me is that it requires a very strong domestic market to attract foreign investors. We cannot underestimate the importance of this because I think no global investor would come to Vietnam just because of the IFC. They come to the IFC or VIFC because they want to invest. They want direct accessibility to the local economy, right? High growth economy, as we have seen, we've seen many presentations talking about that. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is, I think it requires a lot of forward thinking from the regulator to ensure that we can create a safe and predictable environment for investors to come in. It cannot be just tax incentive. It cannot be just relaxation in how to do things, right? There are many more than that. So I think on this, for the moment, I don't have disagreements with his observation, all in agreement.
So we end the conversation here today, because we all agree with what you shared on stage. No, it's just we have a poll, and I can see that you've been participating. What advantages does Vietnam have to become an IFC hub? Supported policies, talents, and low-cost living. We are going to trying to cover all of this because advantages, if we don't address properly, can turn into disadvantages. However, I would like to start with another question because, in your opinion, with your expertise, is Vietnam the only country in the world that decided to do and to start two at the same time, one IFC in Da Nang and one IFC in Ho Chi Minh City? And the main point, because everything has been decided, we're not going to argue, is a good model, it's something that we should discuss, it's already decided. So my question is, competitive is going to be the nature of things, right? Because we have two being built at the same time. What should be done in order to facilitate a healthy competition, if there is, between the two that we're trying to build at the same time?
First of all, of course, the situation is a little bit more complex, right? So if you look at financial centers, Ho Chi Minh City is already a financial center, let's face it, right? So you can argue whether it's an international one, but Da Nang is not a financial center yet, right? So it's a tech hub which can maybe follow the way Shenzhen in China has developed out of a tech hub, becoming also a strong financial center. So from that point of view, it's not the government starting two at once. It's strengthening one further, which is Ho Chi Minh City, and starting one new. But in a way, it's unique. The closest example, it's the United Arab Emirates. I've mentioned DFC. There's also Abu Dhabi Global Market, ADGM, 100 kilometers away, even closer than Da Nang and Ho Chi Minh City. But there are two different Emirates, and there's natural competition between Abu Dhabi and Dubai and everything. whether it's a Formula One track or the highest building, and so on and so forth. So they also started 2 financial center in competition, right? So there was not a question that there should be no competition. To your question, yes, competition should be healthy. It's not at the end that one city talks bad about the other and vice versa. This should be avoided because in the end, both, represent Vietnam, right? So also should be not a race to the button in terms of regulation, right? So they undercut where it's easier. But on the other hand, and this is a debate I had already in Hanoi. I'm a strong believer there will be competition. There are some people saying there should be no competition at all, but my comments, according to common sense, there's always competition between 2 cities, right? So who has gets more money, has a better building, has a better infrastructure, life is nicer, whatever, right? So, and from that point of view, this competition needs to be balanced so that at the end, both will advance, right? So it should be positive competition so that both want to go faster, want to be better.
Yeah. Do you have anything to
I think
add on?
competition is good. Of course, my understanding from the government direction is there should be common regulatory framework or legal basis for both center. I think it's just 2 locations for one Vietnam International Financial Center. But of course, because we have 2 locations, there ought to be competition. I think competition is good. In my private experience, when we had only 1 branch, when I used to run a bank with many branches in provinces, and when we have only 1 branch in 1 location, assigned location, the performance, let's say at X level, if we add another branch as competitor, we see, they compete and they propel. So I think competition would be good.
Right. Adding to the point, we have 1 question here from someone who is really smart. Not just Hanoi, not just Da Nang, but Ho Chi Minh City. Hanoi is also considering or hoping an IFC as well. So you argue that the liquidity should be concentrated. To what extent does having multiple IFCs hinder success? Maybe that's one of the reasons why we chose this model.
Depends on the topic. If you look at the fintechs, the startups in the financial industry in Vietnam, while some developed out of Da Nang and then moved later to Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, it's more or less half Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, right? And you don't want to tell the fintechs in Hanoi, now you have to move either to Ho Chi Minh City or Da Nang. I think this is unreasonable, right? And then fintechs, they can start somewhere, expand through the country. But if you look at capital markets and liquidity pools, there's a big advantage if you only have a single liquidity pool. Like a stock market, all trading is done in 1 trading venue, right? So you might separate if you have different topics, like there's a discussion starting a carbon exchange, it's in preparation. I think the original idea was to start it in Hanoi, maybe we'll move to Da Nang. Of course, you can have a carbon exchange there and the stock market there. But you already have 2 stock exchanges in the country. And I think it's a question for me whether this is sustainable.
Right. So we have limited time, so let's speed up a little bit. Mr. Quang, what are the top non-negotiable legal mechanisms that we need to adopt or improve in order to secure the confidence of the major global fund manager?
I think the investors overall and business at large, everyone wants predictability, everyone wants certainty, right? Everyone wants transparency. So I think it's very important to adopt a legal system that enables all of these qualities. And for me, I believe that a common law legal system is crucial for the success of the VIFC. And I think when we look around the world on the international financial centers, whether it's by evolution or by setting up recently, it's all applying common laws. So Vietnam International Financial Center cannot be different if we are to enter this race.
Right. So stay with you. We have another question. As the financial market remains being, the stock market is still classified as frontier and expectedly to be emerging market by FTSE Russell next year. Do you think how big is this technical barrier to our ambition of becoming a VIFC, an international financial center for the world?
Yeah, I think the grading of our stock market is very important because as we interact with these super big fund managers, they can only invest in the emerging markets and better rated stock markets. So the upgrade of Vietnam into emerging market status by FTSE, obviously very, very welcome. There are other challenges or bottlenecks that the regulators are working on in order for Vietnam also to be on path to be included as emerging market by MSCI as well. But I think, yes, these are really crucial. It kind of opened the doors for these big investors to come into Vietnam.
If I may, of course, there's more homework to be done, right? So another critical success factor for me is get rid of the gray list of the Financial Action Task Force. For those of you who are not familiar with that issue, there's a global financial action task force which fights against money laundering and financial crime. And they have a gray list of countries. This is rather short. Which not that yet successful in fighting financial crime and money laundering. There are countries like North Korea, Iran, and so on in that list, and Vietnam. It has been in our membership a big issue because some of our members also were on that gray list. For instance, Nigeria, in Africa, or even in Europe, Malta was on that gray list, but they managed to get rid of it. Even places like British Virgin Islands and so on, they managed to get rid of the gray list. So this is another homework which needs to be done. Fortunately, Vietnam is showing good progress, but not yet at the finish line.
Right, so continue with competitiveness, but we don't want to do it domestically. Talking about internationally, as we are a latecomer, right? In order to compete with other regional IFC like Singapore, Hong Kong, we have a questions surrounding whether we should have a sectorial focus like cryptocurrency or green finance. What are your take on that?
This is exactly the point where the two locations come into play. Mm-hmm. I think for me, Ho Chi Minh City should offer everything, right? So maybe Ho Chi Minh City cannot compete in investment banking from the beginning, but should offer everything. While Da Nang, and this is also the idea of the government, rightly focus on certain sectors where Da Nang has a core strength. It's a tech. For me, it's embedded finance, but it's also trade finance, supply chain finance, and sustainable finance, which has been selected. Sustainable finance is rather new, could be everywhere, anywhere in Vietnam, but it's good that there's one location for it.
Right. Mr. Quang, from a global bank's perspective, what type of financial services and products must the IFC in Vietnam develop to facilitate large-scale capital flows into Vietnam?
Yeah, I think apart from what we are allowed to do right now, I think within the VIFC, I would like to see at least 4 more type of products that banks can offer. The first one is lending. Of course, we are doing lending now, but I mean, there should be unrestricted lending in the VIFC that will attract foreign capital inflows into the country to support the development of the economy. Number 2 is the concept of pooling. The pooling is a cash management tool which is extremely powerful and critical for regional treasury centers of the MNCs, right? And Vietnam currently, we don't recognize or we don't allow pooling concept. Pooling is a kind of, it's a virtual aggregation of balance of money in the accounts of different entities within a group of companies to maximize the efficiency of the working capital. So that's number 2. I think number 3 is hedging solutions. We are able to hedge, but very limited products right now. So in the VIFC, it should be a complete range of products for investors to hedge their foreign currency exposure, whether it's other foreign currency or even Vietnam dong. I think that's also important. And finally, one more concept is netting. Netting is also not recognized in Vietnam, but that is super important for big players to join the market to improve the balance sheet efficiency and also to manage the exposure in a more effective way, to minimize the risks. So netting is like, if I have this trade with you, and then you have this trade with me, we can settle the net exposure instead of do gross settlement, which is the case in Vietnam right now. I think those are the 4 critical areas of products that we should have in the VIC.
Right. We have been receiving a lot of questions, so this can tell that you are interested in the topic. And I'm impressed with one of them. We've talked a lot about, in your presentation, a lot about the successes. And we also talk about like how we can do to make sure that our models will gain success. What are some of the typical failures that we should keep in mind, lessons to be learned?
In my presentation, I've mentioned already a few of them. Of course, 2 things are most important from my point of view. You need to invest steadily in developing talent. I cannot stress this enough, right? Talent for me is the #1 factor, right? So you have a lot of young, hungry people who, some of them might be interested in a career in finance. You need to nurture them, you need to train them, and requires also investment in universities and other educational centers. So, and second, more globally, you need to have the sustainable, continuous support of the government. You know, we need to be realistic. Government focus might shift over time, right? So you cannot expect that the government is so keen on the both financial centers for the next 20 years, right? There will be also phases maybe where there are other priorities and so on, and then you need to keep it up. So this is very important.
Right. Adding on to talent, we want to know from Mr. Quang which areas of financial expertise are still lacking in Vietnam, and we should be able to develop within a certain amount of time, 36 months, something like that, to fully support this IFC.
I think I wouldn't have a concern in terms of talent at the implementation level. Within the business community, in terms of financial literacy, financial expertise, I think we have a good depth and breadth of talent pool in the financial service sectors that can help with the VIFC. Obviously, like in many other areas, we can always import some small gaps here and there, right, in terms of talent. So I think in the implementation level, we should be fine. But what is important is at the governance level, because this is something completely new to Vietnam, something we've never done before. I think that's where we need a lot of investment, and we may import a lot of foreign talent to help.
If I may add something, I really feel sorry for young people which are at the beginning of their career, which think about what should they study, because it has become so complex, right? In former times, you studied maybe computer science or you did an MBA, but now we see agentic AI replacing programmers, replacing lawyers, replacing all of the junior functions, right? So even, you know, investment banking, you have now the agentic AI solutions. So yeah, it has become very, very difficult, right? So, and the more guidance we can give as a financial industry to what will be needed in 5-6 years when they're ready with their study, I think the better.
Right. So for that, I think that someone has mentioned the spirit of lifelong learning. You know, in a world of change, the only way that you can keep up to date is keep learning, and resilience. People talk about resilience, and that is what we want to make sure that our future generation have. One more technical questions before we go to the final words of this panel. Both Da Nang and DIFC and AIFC operate as common law islands model. Shanghai IFC, by contrast, is fully integrated into China's existing civil law system. From your perspective, which path is more realistic for Vietnam and closer to the Dubai or the Shanghai model? Technical one.
The answer is very easy. You know, if you have a separate legal framework, means out of that financial center, financial district, it's very difficult to access the domestic market, right? So, because then the financial hub will have a different legal framework than the rest of the country. So, China has been quite successfully, maybe has never been planned, but by chance in having Hong Kong as a common law, some sort of onshore, offshore hub. Of course, it's part of China, but it's also a little bit like an offshore hub, while the other financial centers, Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, they're onshore with a civil code, with nothing special. And this combination works very well for China. If you follow that logic, maybe Vietnam should, maybe Ho Chi Minh City should adopt common law and Da Nang stay on the civil code, and you also have two, but I think it's...
That is one of the suggestions. Yeah.
What do you say?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? We have argument here, which is good.
Yeah, I think China, I think Hong Kong should be considered a financial center. Shanghai maybe more commodities, free trade zone rather than a financial center, and therefore the applicability of civil law is okay. But really, yeah, because we are talking about building an international financial center, and all the investors in the world, they are used to common law, and they come to a new place, civil law. They cannot predict what's going on in the future. That is already a big deterrent.
Right. So it's good that we have some. Would you like to make more of your argument?
Yeah, we have to disagree sometimes. Of course, coming from Germany, civil law country, whole of continental Europe is civil, and has also developed quite active financial centers, let me put it that way. So, but you're right, predictability is maybe an advantage of common law financial centers. I think both can work, right? So if you want to strengthen the domestic financial center, I would say the civil code is better. And I said before, first you have to be a strong domestic financial center. And then in a second step, maybe put something common law based on top. You don't need to start with it. Maybe here I think a little bit different. But I'm not saying I'm the only, I'm right. Maybe you're right, and this approach is better.
So final words for this panel discussion. What are the top priorities for the VIFC or the government to help facilitate, the establishment of a strong foundation for the VIFC?
Yeah, I think the top priority should be to issue as good a policy and regulatory framework laid out as good as possible, a regulatory framework for the VIFC, and get it launched. Because no matter how long it takes or how much input you take or how well you prepare, there will be pitfalls, so don't be afraid of that.
Timing is important.
Timing, yeah, just go to the market and then improve, continuous improvement.
Yeah, but I have a bit of argument. People say that if it's not good at the beginning, then you need a lot of fixing here and there.
As best as possible, as best as possible. Because how can you become the best if you don't implement it? It's all in paper, Only when you go into real life, then you start seeing, oh, this one doesn't work, this one is working well, and you cannot. You have to do like that. That's my view. It's better to get started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and learn on the way.
For me, it's like a car race, right? You should go as fast as possible, but don't go too fast. Otherwise, you will hit the wall or something you should not hit. But of course, in particular for Da Nang, it's important to go fast because a smaller financial center, Ho Chi Minh City, can maybe take a little bit more time. And yeah, develop steadily because it's a marathon or even a triathlon, as we said, right? It doesn't matter how fast you're on the first 100 meters, right?
Yeah, but it's important to get started, right? So you set a deadline, you work towards that deadline, and you get started. and then you start improving. Otherwise, you keep, keep cooking.
Yeah. And as you said, it's a triathlon, so we better get started somewhere, right? Thank you so much to our very lovely and debatable, wonderful speakers on the stage, and I think we should give a big round of applause for the audience. Thank you so very much for the amazing questions that you sent our way. It makes this discussion
And
worth
thank you
your time.
to our moderator.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so very much, Dr. Biderman and Anh Quang. Thank you.